The Chuck Vans Radio Podcast. Better than a fresh porta potty at Fiesta.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's comedian Larry Garza, and you're listening to the Chuck Vans Radio Podcast, man. Best podcast in San Antonio.
Be heard. Your tweets could be on the show. Follow at CV Radio Podcast for the spam file topic of the episode. And now it's time for the interactive portion of the show. It's the Chuck Vance Spam File, where I talk about whatever the hell I want to. So stay connected with this show on Twitter at CB Radio Podcast. And hey, you never know, one of your tweets might make it on the show.
It's episode 6 of the Spam File here on the Chuck Vance Radio Podcast. We're going puro San Antonio this week. A very special segment, a very good friend, San Antonio comic icon, Larry Garza. First off, man, how you doing?
Good. I'm great now that I've been called a comic icon. I'd like to point out how puro San Anto this interview is, because we were literally in front of a Jalisco grill, a Mexican restaurant, and so that's how puro we keep it, you and I.
And I will definitely tag you and post the picture of the Jalisco on Twitter. Make sure you follow at Larry Garza Comic and at CV Radio Podcast.
Yes.
Give everyone a little history of how you actually got into comedy.
It's a 15-year-long story. I started in 2002 forming a sketch group called Comedia A Go-Go. And we branched off into films. We branched off into stand-up. I started doing a duo thing like Cheech and Chong with my buddy Regan, another member of Comedia Go-Go. So we were doing the Larry and Regan comedy duo for years. Then, necessity's the mother of invention, right? Well, then there were times Regan couldn't do shows because of work. So then I started doing solo stand-up myself and my uncle Jesus, who farted Mendoza. And then as I was getting my nerves out, because that was the whole reason why I would never do it by myself, it was just nervousness, then I started doing it by myself, and then that's been the past couple of years, I'd say close to 10 actually. And so 15 years doing comedy and 10 years doing solo stand-up, and I've traveled all over the Southwest. It's been pretty cool.
And I think I've known you for most of those years, dating ourselves, going back to, late 90s, early 2000s at SAC.
At SAC, and radio, television, and film.
Film program, great.
And when they
shout
had
out
the building.
KSYM.
Yeah, shout out to KSYM, shout out to SAC, shout out to Mr. Onder Donk. The Donk.
I saw him actually not too long ago.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did he see you? Oh, I can guarantee
he was
you.
very friendly, very friendly.
Good. He was always a cool guy. I used to bump cigarettes off of him. Which, how many teachers could you say you could do that with?
And I think now he's gone to just, instead of chain smoking, he's chewing nicotine gum.
Well, he was chewing nicotine gum while smoking cigarettes. So that's how hardcore the donk was.
He was living the Motley Crue lifestyle.
Exactly.
Okay, and with that being said, of your history in comedy, how would you say the comedy landscape is here in San Antonio?
I think it's rising. There was a time when there was a lot of refried Fridays and a lot of the Latino, the Latino style of comedy was kind of the dominant comedy here in town. And we fell into that to a point with Comedia Go-Go where we did a lot of Latino-based humor, but it was like a weird, awkward spin on it and kind of gross out, old kind of trauma-style humor and just kind of shocking points of view. And now our little underground scene has been blowing up. I helped start this comedy club called the Blind Tiger Comedy Club, which is like those Russian dolls, but of comedy clubs, because it's inside the Mine Shaft Saloon, which is a bar inside the which is a bar inside the Magic Time Machine. So you got to go to the Magic Time Machine, then go to the bar, the Mine Shaft, then ask about where the Blind Tiger is, and then you get to go downstairs, a little secret hidden room.
I remember seeing you there, and I remember thinking this is where either the mob or Sinatra made plans back in the 50s to have people whacked and knocked off.
And that's why it's called the Blind Tiger, because it's a throwback to the speakeasies back in the Prohibition days. And so you have to be kind of in the know to know how to get there. And what's really, really cool is, the local comics are great, but then we also have guests from all over the country coming in. And usually, if you could pay, which is worth it, in my opinion, to see a whole set of a headliner at the LOL River Center. But a lot of the times, comics like to work on new material. They'll come out after their shows and go to the Blind Tiger. So you never know who you're going to see. Like, I think the biggest name we've had down there, Hannibal Buress came, and he did a set. He did about 10 minutes. And it's funny because you would think that the comedy clubs would, hey, you're taking business away, but they're not, because they're just promoting their weekend shows because it's Friday nights at midnight.
Yeah. Nobody's at the comedy club Friday nights at midnight.
Exactly. Yeah, and so they're like, hey, come to the show Friday, Saturday or Sunday.
Because I would think that, from what I can remember, the San Antonio comedy scene, from what I always remember, it was River Center Comedy Club.
Yeah.
That was it. Now there's a couple more places that have popped up, and it seemed like the comedy I used to always see there was always the Carlos Mencia, George Lopez shtick.
Which is, I'm not going to deny it has like a little influence on my act, because I am a Mexican dude and it's part of my culture, but it doesn't take over my entire set. Like, it'll be mentioned because that's who I am, and I'll freaking mention it, like being at a Jalisco right now.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's taken a turn. There's dudes out there that it takes 0% of their comedy act. Like, the only thing Mexican about their act is their last name, which I'm pretty proud of.
That's very awesome, and it's very good for San Antonio being on the rise.
Absolutely.
Your career actually hit a speed bump when you got sick, so why don't you give all the listeners out there a little backstory on how you're doing today and just everything that's happened with you.
Well, May of 2016 on Cinco de Mayo, call it Stinko de Mayo, I got diagnosed with cancer. They found a lemon-sized tumor in my lungs, and then after further scanning, they found a grapefruit-sized tumor in my kidney, which, for a Mexican dude like we're talking about, it's real hard for me because I'm growing fruit and I can't sell it. And then, so I had a couple surgeries. It took a while to, start walking again. And then I felt pretty good, and for the fall, I was like, I'm getting back on it. You only live once. I was traveling. And in November, literally, on election day, I had blacked out and I had a seizure, and they took me in an ambulance and they found a bean-sized tumor in my brain. So even...
And not to make light of it, but I think...
Yeah, no, you please make my light of it.
On election day, I think a lot of people blacked out in
the
hospital.
Well, I'll tell you what, when Trump won... beaners had to sneak in any way they can, so that little beaner snuck in my brain and and caused me to black out. So I like to think that I'm still in a coma in the hospital, and Trump isn't president. I'm just living in this like alternate Mars Volta dimension of life. Like, what if Trump won, and then I wake up and like it's November of 2016.
You're gonna wake up and then you're just gonna look on the TV and it's Bill Clinton playing saxophone on the
right.
Hall show again.
And I'm 13 with a giant morning wood. I miss those.
Well, since I, started my own podcast, you have a podcast as well.
Yes.
Let people know where they can find it. Tell people about the podcast.
Sure. Go to comediaagogo.com. That's COMEDIAA. So that's 2 A's, GOGO.com, or oneofus.net. Our podcast is called Public Access, but that's AXIS, like Access of Evils. And you've been a guest on there.
I have.
Yeah.
And, access, not like public access like the Julius Sadowski show and the Worst Show.
No, which I miss tremendously, those shows. Are those shows like on YouTube?
I've looked. I think I found a couple clips of the Worst Show on YouTube.
Yeah. I remember they went through the Anarchist Cookbook on the Worst Show.
And I remember they caught flack. They actually made local news because he did like How to Kill Yourself. Dave Light was his name. Dave Light.
Dave. Oh wow, you remember
Dave
his
Light,
name?
He always looked like a bootleg version of James Hetfield.
He
with
sure
that
did.
Handlebar
He
mustache.
sure did.
Like he was trying to be a love child of Lemmy and James Hetfield.
Jake Hetfield. He was probably a relative.
Oh, but you mentioned you kind of have an alter ego, your uncle.
One could say alter ego. One could say a completely different person. Yeah, my uncle Jesus who farted Mendoza. He is the worst comedian I know, and he represents everything bad about San Antonio comedy. It's cheesy one-liners. It's easy, low-hanging Mexican joke fruit. Like the fruit. Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. He has a catchphrase. He's terrible. He has a Facebook page, Jesus who farted Mendoza. I think he has a Twitter. He got in a argument with CPS on Twitter. He's embarrassing. I don't like that guy.
Electric company or Child Protective Services?
He says he can't tell the difference between the two. So what he tells people is if they leave a note on your door, either you're going to have a sitter for 6 to 8 weeks or a candlelight dinner.
So it's either going to be romantic or a vacation.
Or a vacation, exactly. It's good for parents if you get a letter from CPS on your door.
And the big one we're promoting, your big show coming up July 29th. Give people the 411 on this big show.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it because this is, I'm back. I wasn't able to do shows for a really long time, because of the seizures I was having and stuff like that. I was immobile, and I was actually scared to perform. And so July 29th, I'm going to be headlining the Guadalupe Theater. They're under a new direction. They're under a new director, so the direction is going a new way, and they're going to start doing some stand-up, and I'm one of their first stand-up comedy shows, and I'm really, really excited about it. I'm doing a whole hour of material. I have an album, Big Mama God and the Hazel-Eyed Monster, which is available at comediagogo.com. So I'm going to be doing some material from that, but I'm also going to be doing a lot of my material based on my experience with cancer. So it's going to be some pretty dark humor, but I do make light of it because you got to laugh at it. You got to laugh in the face of death.
Yeah, fucking metal.
Yes, super metal.
And with the spam file segment that I'm doing, we're doing this interview. I always do an interactive segment, and I take responses from the listeners. I post a question probably like Thursday.
Yeah.
And I get their responses, and I read them on the show. I want to get your thoughts. This week's topic, the alleged new Nike uniforms that our Spurs could possibly be wearing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at them right now, and so these are alleged. So there's a possibility that these may not be.
These may not be, but they came from a couple credible sources on Twitter.
Well,
of course, on Twitter, everything's credible.
I'm not going to lie. I'm an Adidas guy. I've been an Adidas guy for a while, so I got super stoked when Adidas took over the NBA jerseys. But Nike, you can't go wrong with Nike with Air Jordan and stuff like that when they ran stuff. And I'm not going to lie to you, man. I like them. I think they're pretty cool. I like the look. I like the old school San Antonio kind of throwback to
those
the
two are
Gervin
probably
days.
my favorite of the uniforms.
And they're interchangeable with black and white like it should be. I will say that I loathe the gray ones. I do not like the gray ones, but I didn't like the gray ones even when Nike was doing them. To me, you know what they look like? They look like when you went to solo serve as a kid and you asked your mom for a Spurs jersey and you wanted a black or white one because that's the only jerseys they wore on the court, and then they made some gray knockoff ones, and those are the only ones you could get.
And it wasn't a David Robinson jersey.
No.
It was like Vinny Del Negro or Terry Cummings.
It was it was Jack Haley. Right, and you're like, great, yeah, I really want a Dwayne Shinsis jersey, Mom.
I'm actually thinking about doing a custom Dwayne Shinsis jersey.
You should. I would rock a Jack Haley one if you want to rock a, but that's $70, dude.
Yeah, I know.
But I don't know if you noticed on the gray one, man. So all the shorts have these cool little logos on the bottom, right? The old school black ones and the old school white ones that say San Antonio have a spur. The ones that say Spurs have this cool essay with the ball that's reminiscent of like the Brooklyn logo.
Brooklyn Nets or the Clippers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the gray ones have a basketball with the Taco Cabana colors.
And I think
so
everybody loves the old school Taco Cabana colors.
Yeah.
And I think they could have done so much more with the uniform.
Well, look, on the side, too, I just noticed that on the side of the gray has the pink and the whatever other.
That's to cover up your sweat stains when you're wearing them, waiting in line at the AT&T Center. But they're cool. On the inside of the neck, it actually says Alamo City.
Yeah,
on a couple of them, like those, the San Antonio ones don't say that.
The gray one is the only one that's. Well, I may take back the loathing because it says Alamo City on the inside, which you're not going to see.
Well, the other two, if you go to the left, yes, we are looking at it as we're.
Yeah. I got it. Okay,
Yeah.
so the black and white ones are definitely my favorite. Oh wow, they have like a little belt buckle spur on the shorts, but who tucks in their shirts
other than the players?
Exactly. And so the gray ones, I guess they're trying to appeal to the throwback, but I don't know. The ones that say San Antonio are my favorites. Those are
because that's kind of a throwback to the ABA and the old school, like George Gervin, Frank Burkowski kind of days. Dropping knowledge.
Caldwell Jones. But yeah, so I would rock the San Antonio top with the only spur bottom, and I think I would fucking get best of both worlds.
Now I'm waiting to see when because they've been talking about going the route of like soccer jerseys, where we're going to start having.
I like the dry fit.
Corporate advertisers.
Wow.
So I'm thinking we're going to see HEB or Valero.
No, we're going to see the Jalisco grill.
Jalisco number 37.
Number 37. The best Jalisco number 37, because there's 4 Jalisco 37s
on each side of town.
Yeah, it's a Jalisco grill number 37, number 3.
Where you can get the best number 2 dinner.
Yeah, right. Exactly, that makes you number 2.
And hopefully, with those jerseys, that means that they're going to go away from those stupid fucking T-shirt jerseys.
I hate those T-shirt jerseys. I always have with the V-necks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they look like they're going to go play volleyball, but they just so happen to play a pickup game before they went to their volleyball game.
Yeah, the volleyball tournament happened after the game at the AT&T.
Exactly.
Happened at Freeman Coliseum.
Right. After the graduation.
All right, man, before we wrap it up, let's get one last push for your show and where people can find you on social media.
That's right, guys. Larry Garza on Facebook. I have a regular Facebook. I decided long ago not to have actual page. I'm like, if I can get 5,000 actual people to follow me, I think that would be pretty cool. So just look me up, Larry Garza on Facebook. Follow my group, Comedia Go-Go. We have a page. You can go to our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter at Comedia Go-Go. Follow me on Twitter at Larry Garza Comic. Or if you really want insight on my life, go to my Instagram at Larry Garza Comedy, and that's a lot of fun. I do a lot of stupid stuff on there.
Awesome. Well, my man, it has been a pleasure having you on episode 6. We will have to do it again very soon. Maybe I will make an appearance on your podcast,
yes,
Public
I
Access,
can't wait for you to
sometime
come back.
here in the near future.
Yes, those were paused actually when I got sick, so now we're getting back into the swing of things. So we would love to have you, Chuck.
Any last words for the listeners?
Just support local comedy, guys. The biggest pet peeve that us local comics have is when you guys say you want to come support us when we're opening up for a big name. If you really want to come support us, go to these free local shows. Open mics, you know what? I'll give you that. A lot of open mics, people are trying stuff out, or you have a lot of just like douchebags going on there just talking crap for 5 minutes. But if you actually go to a legitimate showcase or a show where someone's headlining that's local, don't just, suck your teeth about it. Go support. I guarantee that you'll have a good time. So support local comedy, local music, local food. Think about where your stuff's coming from and make sure the San Antonio scene is awesome, because it's all up to you.
Just don't support Spurs Jesus.
Can I cuss?
Yes.
Yeah, fuck Spurs Jesus. Fuck Spurs Jesus. I think that he represents everything that's hypocritical about our city. And for people that can get easily offended about things that, may touch on religion, for you to, kind of advocate this false idol that he has courtside seats, that he's a douchebag.
And he sells candles of himself.
You're literally promoting the Antichrist. So I say you want to step against it. Rock Spurs Satan, man.
We've talked about it. We've talked about bringing it.
Yeah, exactly. He either sits in the cheap seats or he tailgates outside selling bootleg Spurs stuff. You could probably catch him at Bar America watching the game, or at your local cousin's house that he's just going to crash. Spurs Satan, man. Look out for him.
Yes, and then with the upcoming season, we got to do Spurs Satan, because it'll be the race for say.
Race for say. face. We have to do it, man. Hail Spurs Satan.
All right, man. Well, go check out Larry, July 29th, Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center. You will laugh your ass off. I got more Chuck Vans Radio podcast coming up after this.
The Chuck Vans Radio Podcast. It's often imitated, but never duplicated.
But to be the man, you gotta beat the man. And I'm saying,